rebuilding. A catastrophic failure, a new start. Physically, mentally, our careers, our businesses. Step back, first step, next step. The driver in me just wants to get it done tomorrow. We'll do this, do that, let's move this, where are we at with this? You build some confidence, build some self-esteem, start to feel better about yourself. The Silverback Blueprint Podcast, a show for men over 40. We focus on getting stronger, staying motivated, building discipline, creating a community, and becoming truly happy. Hey guys, and welcome to episode 72 of the Silverback Blueprint Podcast. Today's episode, we're going to follow up about something I'd done a couple episodes ago, back in episode 70, so not too long ago, about, pondering what life would be after benching 600. I had an upcoming meet December 16th in Scarborough, Toronto, and the goal there was to see if I could break the 600-pound barrier on a bench. And I talked about, what would it be like after I do that? It's been such a long-term goal, and I've been after it for so long, and would I want to go further? Or would I just all of a sudden have this sense of accomplishment and want to move on to yoga or, climbing Mount Everest or whatever? But luckily for me, I didn't bench the 600, so I didn't have to face any of those dilemmas. I didn't have to worry about that. And I didn't hit it. I kind of came close. I opened up with a 545 bench, and that went well. And then my second attempt was 573, and I was feeling pretty good. I was pretty confident, and I drove it really well off the chest, got it to about the three-quarter part, and then that's a sticking point that I have sometimes when I get to a new weight, and that's exactly where I got stuck. 2 more inches, it was clear, and I would have locked out the 573, which would have been all-time personal record, set a bunch of records in that federation, some old man level records and shit, and didn't quite happen. So I had a third attempt, waited about 7 minutes before it was my turn again, got under the bar, got really tight, drove it as hard as I could, and didn't even get it up as high as the previous attempt. So, it didn't happen. Am I disappointed? Of course. Was I surprised? Yes and no. When I look at some of the factors, and that's kind of what I do, after a meet, whether I'm successful or I'm not successful. I mean, the 545 opener ended up being the heaviest bench I've ever done in that federation anyway. So, I mean, that's pretty good. So I looked at it that way, but I always kind of sit back and try to take an inventory or sort of debrief as to what happened, what went well, what didn't go well. And, not just on meet day, but, the couple days before, a couple weeks before and such. And, there's a lot of things that didn't work for me in my favor. And I never use them as excuses. At the end of the day, right, I never look at these things as excuses. I look at them as some reasons, some possibilities, and things to improve upon for the next time I compete. One of the big things is my mental state was off. My headspace was a little dirtier than normal. My wife and I had a big argument, as couples do, right? That kind of thing. And it had been building for a while, and it ended up happening probably about 5 days before. And for me, the one thing that really makes the big difference in my headspace is if things are off for me, in my home life, I find it bothers me and affects me more than anything else that I face on a day-to-day basis. Any stress from business and work and training and health and stuff like that. Those things, obviously will weigh on me somewhat. But when things are just not where I want them to be and where I feel they should be at home, I find it makes a big difference. And one of the reasons is because home is very important to me. It's part of who I am. I'm very proud to be a husband. I'm very proud to be a father. I'm very proud to have a home. These are all things that, weren't there when I was growing up. So they're super, super important to me and stuff. And, I derive a lot of energy from it. I derive a lot of motivation from it. And to me, that's probably one of my big areas, my kryptonite, if you will. And like anything else, there's things that, I have to work on and I have to improve upon. And sometimes things just come to a boiling point, and then when they erupt and then they get dealt with, we move forward and stuff. But that was a big thing for me. That really was in my headspace. I'm really a positive guy, but, it's nagging in the back of my head at the time. Physically, I felt good. I felt strong, I was a little, when I look at my overall energy though, for the 3 weeks, for the whole month of December, it was just crazy. We ran a big meet the first weekend of December at Hostile. We had 96 lifters. It was just jam-packed all day Saturday. It was a 12, 13 hour. It ran super smooth, but leading up to the meet, I'm getting t-shirts ready. It's late at night. I have a great team. They're working hard, but at the end of the day, I got to make sure everything happens, and it's my ball game one way or the other. If it's successful, it's because we have a great team. If it fails, it's because of me, and that's how I look at things. So you're definitely on. And then the following week was wrap up from that, and then I was at another powerlifting meet. A buddy of mine held that we were there as Hostile gear, so I had a booth set up, and it went really well, very positive. And then that third week was that meet in Scarborough. So, 21 days of just hustle and being on, right, affects the energy and stuff. Long drives. I had someone to do the drive with me to Toronto, so that helped. But we didn't end up getting into the hotel room till 1 a.m, and then I'm basically have to be at the meet at 7:30. And again, they're not excuses, guys, but they're things that do contribute to energy, to focus, like we talked about earlier. You only have so much energy and so much bandwidth and stuff. And one of the things I look at, I always ask is it my age? Is age a factor? And I don't believe I'm too old. I don't believe in that for a second. At 49, I'm going to be turning 50 in a few months. Or actually, this is coming out in March, so I'm going to turn 50 this month. But however, I'm not Superman. And I tend to forget that sometimes. I feel that I can take everything on and I can do everything and I can handle it. And I can, but it comes at an expense, right? It comes with a toll, right? So either that's going to be mental tiredness, physical tiredness. And for me, with that headspace not being where I normally is, I find it magnifies even more, right? And anytime we compete in something, and especially with strength, it's so much mental. Right? It makes such a difference what's going on. You'll see powerlifting meets or strongman meets or stuff, or, that kind of thing where guys, get psyched up by getting angry and getting slapped and stuff like that. And to me, that doesn't work. I'm the opposite. The better mood I'm in, the more positive mood I'm in, the better I do. And I think that's why there was such a big thing, big part of me, knew that. And I knew that going in because I know how I am. I know how I am about these, certain things. But at that point, you still have to go in and do your best. Like I said, I did pretty good, but definitely not what I wanted, not what I'm capable of doing. But at the same time, and this is maybe where a little bit of the maturity comes in, also realizing is that there's some reasons as to why it didn't quite work out the way it did. All in all, it ended up being a pretty positive weekend. It was really good for the brand. It was really good for the sport of powerlifting. I had a great time hanging out at an event that I love being at. We sold tons of stuff. Our hoodies were flying all over the place. People were excited. Just talk to great people, good lifters, good people. It's just a positive thing. It's a great way to spend, my time. It's what I really enjoy doing. It's in my wheelhouse. Driving back with my buddy, we had great conversations. We talked more about business and the brand, and it was fun just to have that. But also, the whole time in the back of my mind is I knew that, when I got back home, I had to make things right. I had to, get my head right, and I had to have a follow-up conversations, just to put everybody back, on even keel, just to make things good again, right? And sometimes I think that's where we have to watch for stubbornness and stuff. It's not about who's right, who's wrong, because no one's ever 100% right or 100% wrong in this kind of thing. It's about being ready to initiate that conversation. And maybe it's another argument that comes to a point and you have a resolution at the end or that kind of thing. I mean, that's super important. And I know a lot of guys will avoid that. I don't like to avoid it because it's too important to me. It makes such a big difference in my life, and it makes such a big difference in my family's life that I don't want it to be a lingering thing, because a lot of times it's just pride and feelings that are hurt that are making it last longer, and that doesn't benefit anyone, right? So subsequently, a couple of days later, once I had a really good conversation and we sit there, we can look at the thing and we can fix it, right? And really it just takes the desire. If both parties want to fix it, right, both sides, it's fixable, right? We have to put aside our emotions, our hurt feelings, and listen, right? And realize, like any negotiation, right? You have to sit there and understand that if both sides really want to be there, then we have to make sure it's a win-win for both sides, right? And that doesn't change. It doesn't matter if you're negotiating a lease, if you're dealing with a personal relationship, if you're buying a house or a car and stuff like that. To me, those are the best deals, is when both sides respect the other side and want it to work and stuff, right? So to me, that's super important. And I just want to do a follow-up and talk about, why do things make such a difference overall, and that it's important that we take care of the things that are important to us overall. And again, guys, it's mindset, especially as we're older. I'm speaking to the choir here. I know that, there's you guys out there realize that you're quicker to get angry, you're quicker to get frustrated. And part of it is because we're just not where we want to be physically and mentally and emotionally and stuff, right? So that's the whole point about this rebuilding, is to recognize those things, take that inventory, look at what we need to fix, and then be honest and be ready to work hard on dealing with those things, right? And it's all about us. We're the only ones who can control how we feel. We're the only ones who can control how we handle the situation. It's okay to be angry. It's okay to be upset. It's usually a reason that's triggering that, but then we got to look at that reason. And then we got to look at, are we being reasonable about that reason? And is it something we can correct, right? We're quick to blame. We're quick to point the finger and say it's this, that, or the other thing. But so many times we need to start to point the finger back at ourselves and say, hey, what can I do so this doesn't happen? Or what's really bothering me here? What's the one thing that I could look at here that I could resolve and work on that would make such the biggest difference, right? So I didn't miss that 600-pound bench because I wasn't strong enough. I didn't miss that 600 bench because I wasn't prepared. I missed that 600 bench because my head wasn't in the right space, and physically I wasn't in a position where I was rested enough and focused enough and ready to go after that weight and give it its attention and the focus that it truly deserves, right? So if I failed, that's where I failed it. I wasn't in the training for it. It wasn't in the prep for it. The body was ready to handle it and stuff like that. But again, it's all about that mind. It's all about our mindset and our focus and the thoughts that are in our head. The more we can control that, the more that we can master that, and the more that we can protect that and keep ourselves in that positive state of mind, the more that we can achieve. It's that simple. It really is. If we can master our emotions, we can master things around us. If we can't master our emotions, right, then we're going to become a slave to them. And that's where we end up making silly decisions, rash decisions. I'm having trouble with that word today. But really that's the tough stuff. That's the stuff that's really hard to focus on. That's the stuff that's not going to get fixed overnight. So a lot of us will just, avoid it, move on to something else. Back in the day, I would just drink, right? That's how I mitigated. That's how I medicated those things and stuff, right? Now, I don't have that option, and I don't want that option. I can go out tomorrow and drink, go out right now and drink, but I don't want that to be the option because it's not making me the best version of myself overall. And that's the thing, guys, that's that message I want to focus on is, you know what? The conclusion here, man, is headspace is key, right? Let's get on that. Let's focus on that. Let's make it a better headspace all the time for ourselves. Let's do what it takes to do that, right? Work hard, motherfuckers. That's all I got to say about that for now, guys. Head on over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star review. Head on over to Hostile Gear. Use the code Silverback to save 20% off, and I'll talk to you guys later.